I know Syngenta is involved in a lot of trials, both the trials that you do as you get ready for events like California Spring Trials, but then also, once varieties move past that stage into the, site trials that take place at growing operations and universities, et cetera. How do those trials, dictate or drive future breeding efforts at Syngenta? What's the kind of connection between those two?
Yeah, definitely. So we do a lot of work with public demo trial garden sites and also universities that are spread all across the US. So it's really important to us to get regional data on our varieties so that
Yeah.
we can make sure that our varieties are performing as we expect them to across all of the regions.
Yeah.
Or if they aren't, that helps us inform us of a gap that we can then go back and work on to help provide a solution for that area. It gives us a lot of connection with the end consumer as well, because a lot of these places do have a volunteer base that comes and helps with the gardens, or they have days where the public can actually come out and evaluate the trials and, vote on their favorites. So, getting that feedback from the consumers also kind of helps us see what people are liking, where the trends are going, and what people are excited about as we're coming out with new varieties.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, that's always one of the biggest challenges I would imagine is, you've got the variety traits the growers look for, and then you've got the traits that consumers might be looking for. How do you kind of make sure that those are aligned so you're kind of focused on two things at once there?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my opinion, they're actually kind of close to the same. People maybe just use different vocabulary. So, for the end consumer, they're looking for something that they're going to be really successful with in their garden. So that for them, that might look like blooming all season long, lots of flower power, pollinator friendly. And so for us, that kind of translates into, we're looking for a plant and breeding towards plants that are naturally more compact. So they stay a little bit tidier, but they're also easier for our grower customers to produce and have on a bench or rack them at retail. We're also looking to breed plants that are higher branched. So more branching equals more flower power.
Sure.
And so that's kinda how we tie it back and helps inform us on how we can better breed our genetics to meet kinda what the consumer is after.
Okay. Specific to that breeding process, then, how have you seen that evolve over the past couple of years in terms of some of the new tools and resources that are available to your breeding team? And then how do you see that continuing to evolve over the next few years?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of what we're working towards is innovating plants with resilience. So, like I mentioned, either making them more naturally compact and higher branched, but also the heat tolerant aspect of it, and looking at drought tolerance, but also looking at disease resistance. Disease pressure is huge, especially in the South. So a couple of our lines, like Cora XDR Vinca, has that built-in disease tolerance and resistance to aerial phytophthora. And we're constantly working on, as a new strain is discovered,
Okay.
retesting it against our genetics to make sure that they still have that tolerance, and working with, trialing with the third party, Clemson University, to help validate those claims, and also kind of make sure that we're constantly putting out genetics that are resilient and successful for our growers to reduce, and then also successful for the end consumer so that they can be happy with their plants and keep coming back to purchase more.
Yeah. One of the things that I really appreciate about, how plant breeding works is that, you have to be able to look years down the road and see where things are going because of the time frame and process it involves to develop a new variety. How does a company like Syngenta Flowers kind of track where, consumer interest, consumer demand is going to be over the next few years to help you, be able to forecast, here's what we need to be working on as a company down the road based on what we're seeing?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a couple different avenues that we look at to evaluate this. So we follow a couple different companies that put out big data sets on major consumer trends, what people are spending their money on and what they're looking for, and what colors are people attracted to that year. And then we also maintain a really close relationship with our grower customers.
Mm,
So gaining feedback from them on, what made their year successful, what were they seeing sell through at in the stores, and what they're purchasing again for next year. And then we evaluate our own sales data. So kind of seeing what crops we're increasing market share in, or what crops are maybe declining in market share. And that helps us inform us on, maybe if something's declining, maybe we want to allocate more breeding efforts to that to
yeah,
drive innovation or create something new to get interest back into a certain crop. Or for the major crops, what is that next thing? What will keep us on top?
yeah.
So those are a couple different ways that we look at what's trending and where can we move into.
Okay. And then the last question for you, just kind of taking a step back from everything other we talked about so far. What excites you the most about the future of this segment of the industry that you're involved in?
Well, for me, I'm definitely excited about the trialing aspect. Like, I think trialing definitely brings our industry together. It informs us of what we need to look at. It brings community engagement, which is so important and so special. And it just helps drive innovation with that competition and efficiency in getting that real time feedback to help inform us and make better decisions on where we can go forward with our products.